What's happening? One sec. Sorry, I was busy redoing the entire studio. Fine. Still nothing. All right, what's happening? Back at it again. Hopefully you guys have good audio and everything. I literally just stripped everything down, reorganized everything. I dropped the desk 6 inches, put the chair lower so I can get a new office chair, everything. I did all that in an hour and 15 minutes. I can't believe it. I'm sweating like crazy. No sound. I'm not surprised. Hold on. Oh, thanks, Brandy. Thanks. Okay. So you guys have sound. All right. Good deal. Okay. So are we going to get more of the same from Mr. Dan Campbell? What do you think? Got to check out the sound here. Make sure we're all good, because when you start ripping wires out, you just never know. All right, audio sounds good. I'll be making some more adjustments, like probably talking through a helmet. We'll keep Dan Campbell off, but we're going to be talking through the helmet. At some point, this guy's going to be mounted right on this microphone. Oh, man. What's low? My audio's low? When I listen on YouTube, it's loud as hell. We'll keep Dan Campbell off, but we're going to be talking through the helmet. It's super low or super loud. I could turn it up. I just don't want to. I don't want to clip. Let me turn it up a little. Turn it up for the people in the back. All right, bring it up to 80. Anyway, all right, question number 1. Are we going to get more of the same? Make sure your guys' volume is turned all the way up, though. Make sure that's up. So that way we know it's not me. And if yours is all the way up, then it could be me. When you say it's low, let me know where it's from. Is it from a TV? Is it from a phone? Is it a tablet? I'm interested. But anyway, we should be good to go. I'm about sick of volume issues. OBS has been on one this week or last week. All right, so let's re-kick this off. Dan Campbell's about to step up to the podium. We already listened to Brad Holmes. Agree or disagree with Brad Holmes? I mean, that is your own personal flavor. And I will say that, phone with the ear pods. So, Tilly, yeah, there's been some of these new ear pods, the ones that sit off the ear. They're like terrible for sound. So if you have one of those, then I would understand. So agree or disagree with Brad Holmes, the fact that he said we were never one player away. And if we would have brought in, all these top tier edge rushers, what would have happened? What would have happened if they would have been injured as well? And I think that's the biggest question that has already been answered. I mean, the Lions won 15 games with the most depleted roster I've ever seen. And it took some incredible coaching. It took a ton of resilience. And you kind of get sick of hearing the one player away mentality. I don't know where this came from, but I've listened to quite a few GMs talk today. I've listened to a lot of different press conferences today. And I got to tell you, they're all saying the same thing, that it starts from the trenches and you have to build your core and you have to follow the process. I mean, there's a lot of coach speak, right? GM speak, if you will, but they're not lying. Like they're being honest. They're trying to tell us there's a process. I think the problem that we face as, let's put my fandom out there in front of anything else. My fandom would say this. My goodness, we just came from the depths of the pits of the bottom of the NFL. We were gum on the bottom of people's shoes and desks at school for 6 decades, and now we're back. And so I think we're greedy, or some of us are. I'm more realistic and refined in my approach, which took me a long time to understand. I'm not going to lie to you. Ask my dad, he'll tell you. And, he's been doing this his whole life. So I'm a little bit more realistic, refined in my approach to say, look, it's been 4 seasons, and 2.5 of those seasons have been incredible. I'm sorry. It's been 4 seasons, and yeah, I'd say 2.5. 2.5 of those seasons have been incredible. The first season obviously was terrible. It was a shit show. The second season, we turned it on in the second half of the season. And then the third season, you could see when we added the offensive pieces that we did, this team took off, right? We finally had some ponies in the race. This team took off. And now here we are entering year 5, and we've almost had a shot at a Super Bowl. We've almost had a shot at a Super Bowl twice in the last 2 years, but we just haven't quite been deep enough to get there. Now, had we stayed healthy last year, I bet you that this team would have gone the distance. They would have had a tough game against the Eagles if it would have been the Eagles in the NFC Championship still, which it probably would have been. But I will tell you that this team is so much more close than they are away. And they're not just one player away. They're not. They're multiple players away because they're going to have to refill the pipeline this year again. You're going to have at least 15, 20% of roster attrition. We got a brand new team. Like, this is no joke. I look at this team as I don't know if anyone's ever shared this view, but when you look at some of these new, franchise teams, here we go. Here's Mr. Dan. All right, let me get this guy in here. I'll come back to that thought in a minute.
How's it going? Questions?
Earlier today, Brad said that he was bringing in new coaches and rebolstering all of that. So
Yeah.
what did that look like in that process, the patience, and why was it so important to have that?
Yeah, that's something that, look, I told, I told Ben and AG the same thing when they were leaving, and it was the same thing I was told. The most important thing you'll do as a head coach is hiring your staff. And so I had to do that already one time, and then over the course of, the last 4 years, other coaches that have come and gone. And so this was the biggest, this is kind of the phase 2, man. This was to reload the coordinators and different position coaches. So I wanted to take my time and do it right. And so, I had a lot of interviews. A lot, and really sat them down, got to know them, kind of figured them out a little bit, what they take. The football is there, but it's really about the mesh, the chemistry. I'm big on that. So that was a big part of it, and I think we got it right. Go ahead.
Okay, first question was the patience that was exuded in hiring your new staff. And I think that he answered it perfectly. He wanted to get it right. He feels he got it right. Really not much else to say with that. So we'll keep on going ahead here.
I know 24. Somebody told me it was 26, but a lot. Yeah, different. Yep.
You shifted the role of Scotty Montgomery to now be the receivers coach. What do you like about him in that role now?
Yeah, look, I think this is going to be great for us. Scotty's a huge asset for us, and what it does is, he's an excellent coach, all right, and so now he gets that whole receiver room and the pass game as well. You know, he's going to be a huge part of our pass game, just like David Shaw is going to be. But he's going to have a huge impact. It's been run game, running backs now, and he's coaching more guys, and he'll have a big impact on the pass game.
And how about John and Kelvin? Just like why those three choices? Why they check all the boxes?
Yeah, I'll start on defense. You know, Shep was somebody that I've always believed that Shep could be an outstanding coach. And about 2 years ago, I just felt like, man, this guy is he'll be ready to be a coordinator sooner than later. And so AG and I had talked about it and tried to give him more responsibility over the last 2 years. And with that in mind for him, yeah, man, this is the next step. This is the next step. Without telling him, nothing was ever promised, but and man, I felt really good about that. Like, he's ready. He's ready. And the coaches that are in that room, you know, Deshae Townsend and Jim O'Neill, Dave Correo, moving Ham, you know, Sean Dion Hamilton, which was under Shep, to linebackers, and then getting Casey Rogers D-line. And it's a veteran coaching staff that understand ball, and they're going to supplement him well. They're going to help. But he's ready. He's already, you know, it's been great over the last, call it 3 or 4 weeks here. So felt really good about that. And then John Morton, I mentioned this before. We were together here in 22. I've been with him with the Saints. He was kind of part of the group when we put this thing together. He was a part of this, and so I felt like that was the best move for us, was to get him back here. Somebody that I have a lot of trust in, faith in, golf knows, comfortable with, and you know, he's got a good rapport with Hank, Brew. You know, and then adding the additions that we have with, obviously, David Shaw. Those two go way back, he and John Morton, which was big for us. Tyler Roll, young guy, you know, Iowa State.
You guys are on the Lions YouTube side, dropping F the Bears.
Running back coach, and then before that he was coordinator out there at North Dakota State. So interviewed him 2 years ago, you know, and I was close then. And then this year was the right year, you know, and then to get Tashard Choice was big. I didn't know if we were going to be able to pull that off, but that's outstanding. He's going to be great for us. You know, he's probably one of the most coveted running back coaches come out of college in a while. So he's going to be great for those guys in the running back room. Certainly he's got a rapport with Gibbs. I think Montgomery's going to like him and help those guys get better. Well, I think there's just a different viewpoint. You know, I think, you know, just in general, when you think about, I think, you know, AG, I think, had a lot of perspective from the back end forward. And that's how a lot of those guys think, man. Everything, most of it does start with the coverage, and then how does it tie into the front? Because that's how it gets altered. You can't just put a front up there, and then if the coverage isn't right, it's easier to adjust the front to the coverage than vice versa. So whereas Shep's kind of got a little bit of both, man. He's that front seven, and then, you know, the back end doesn't mean it comes last. It's just, I think there's a little bit more thought up front and inside than there is back there. And that's where Deshae and them are going to be great for him and help him out. And so it's just a little different perspective. And there'll be some things that we'll tweak that in the system that we have been running that we think are going to help us, help our guys. There's already been a couple of things that have come up. And that's just the nature of having different guys, right? You just kind of have a little different belief system. Doesn't mean, for example, we're not going to play man. It's just what kind of type of man are we going to play? What kind of leverage, or how is it going to start? That's all.
Okay, so this is actually a very interesting portion of Dan Campbell here. So is he trying to say we're not going to run as much man? Probably not. I guarantee we're going to stick in man. You don't bring the type of corners that you brought in, the back end help with Branch and Kirby. You don't have those style of players and then tell them to play off man. That's probably a bad idea. But I think what I just took out of this, which matters to me, at least I'm trying to understand where we're going, especially heading into the draft. Calvin Shepard being the defensive coordinator. Well, this tells me that him having a more of an internal, like inside out approach, right? He's in the middle of the defense. So he has to know what's going on behind him and what's going on in front of him. That's going to give us more of a universal look. He's going to have more of this universal understanding of what really needs to happen with our defense. I didn't even think about that. I didn't think that he was going to have a different approach or a different sight line, if you will, being a linebacker's coach, now elevated to DC. I probably thought about it, but it didn't really cross my mind from the perspective that Dan is giving us. So I love it. Now I'm even more interested to see what we're going to do.
No, I wouldn't read into that. That's just they were part of the process, and they were guys that they just happened to be like these guys that played quarterbacks instead of some other position. But man, sitting down with both of those guys, I was blown away, man. They were, I always think of it no different than players. Like those guys belong to us. They belong with us. That's how I felt with those interviews with Tuiasa Sopo and Gradkowski. Both was like, man, these guys, they belong here, man. They ought to be with us, because I can just see they're going to take off. I think they're going to be really good coaches for us. I think right now Bruce will be working in the receiver room with Scotty, helping him out, and then Marcus will be in there with Brew in the quarterback room helping him out. So I just love it, man. I think it's good. You got your guys, and then you got your guys coming off the bench, and I love our guys coming off the bench too. So it's going to be good.
Why do you come to the combine?
Talking to you. He's an outstanding teacher.
Why are we asking about Terrell Williams again?
Outstanding teacher, great human being, somebody that's team first, hard worker. I think he's got a good vision for what he wants to do, and certainly I know what Vrabel's going to want to do out there. They've worked together.
Nice, rub it in, Steve.
He's just top notch. Like that was the hardest thing is that, man, I got Terrell, and then a year later he's gone. He just comes in. I was fortunate to get Casey Rogers here after that, but they're going to be very happy with him, man. He's an outstanding. He's one of the best D-line coaches in the league, if not the best. He and Casey, I think, are 1 and 2. And what I would say is formal interviews and talking to you. Yeah, Aaron Glenn. Yeah, well, he's been the CEO of our defense, and I think there's a number of things that
CEO of our
defense. for that whole time, he's been somebody that I've bounced a lot of things off of. I go in there and we talk about, man. I'll tell him a number of things that come up within the off season, during the season, pertains to rules, roster, could be the cap, it could be game situations. So this is not going to be something that's new to him. Like he'll be going to be ready for this. He's going to be like anybody else. He's going to have to learn on the fly, and there'll be things that you're not going to know what you don't know until you're in it. But he's going to do phenomenal, man. AG's a superstar. Yeah.
So I think it's hilarious when I see stuff in the Lions chat where people are saying get Miles and bring back Slay. Like, okay, bring back a really old corner that you don't need, that's at the end of his career, and overpay for Miles. Yeah, if you could get Miles on a cheap contract, great. Ain't happening. Browns ain't letting him leave. I'm wondering what people listen or read to, or maybe they don't. Maybe they just, I don't know, maybe they're under a rock. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know everybody that he's hired, but I know.
Like this idiot in the chat, I'm sorry, says defense sucks. Well, when you have a massive amount of injuries, probably going to have some problems, right? But one of the best defenses we've had in over a decade, and finished as one of the better defenses we've had in over a decade. Our defense didn't suck by any means. It was one of the best defenses in the league when healthy.
Probably half of them, and they're all really good coaches. I think he's built an outstanding coaching staff from the guys that I know personally. Certainly, I worked with DA, Dan Roshar, number of guys over there that I think are really good coaches. And so, look, it's Yeah, it'll be different to see him over there on the other sideline since he's been on ours for 4 years. You know, that'll be different. But that's the way this game works. You know, somebody's got to be on our sideline, somebody's going to be on the other, and you play to win.
He said about not hiring his friends was part of his philosophy. Is that something that you did?
Yeah, I think it's you're fortunate if you can find the right guy that happens to be your friend. I don't think that's the easiest thing. If you can, good for you, man. That's awesome because it's somebody you really know, you can trust, they're competent, and they can coach. You know, those don't always go hand in hand. I think the worst thing you can do is just hire your buddy, but he's not real good at what he does, whatever that is. And no knock on anybody else, I'm just saying. So I think it's important you get the right guys. And they're about ball, and they're going to see it the way you see it.
Yeah, I saw that, Brandy.
Shed some light on John Morton's contributions in 2022 and what he was doing behind the scenes.
Yeah, well, there again, he was one of the pivotal pieces of helping us put this together, this offense originally for golf, with golf. And so that was big, but then also, man, there were so many things that during the game plan, man, weeks of game plan, the ideas that he had in the past game going into weeks, getting ready for the opponents, was big for us. A lot of things. I don't know about Mike Green. Man, he's a guy who he does not lack ideas ever. And so he's very creative in that regard. He's a grinder, man. He's an unbelievable hard worker. Day of the game, same thing, man. He's going into, you know, I mean, you're talking about 4 hours before the game, 5 hours. He's going through all these tendencies, ideas. He's just trying to give, all right, Ben may need these thoughts, you know, and so he's got, hey, I think this is what he's going to do. I'd do this. I think this is, so he was ready, man. He constantly always had thoughts on what I would call, what I would do, you know, kind of one step ahead. And so that's a lot of it. Yeah, I mean, that's hard, right? It's hard. It's hard because you know, you hate to lose guys. You hate to lose guys, especially when you feel like they've been with you and you're trying to help them and develop them, and then you feel like, you know, they go somewhere else. But it's also, I also know the flip side of that is if you don't have that position to give, or you don't feel like you can, then man, that's a hard pill to swallow, to say no, then you can't go. You stay in the spot you're at, even though you were offered this or a promotion of some sort. You know, that's hard. So I'm not big on blocking. I've done it, but I'm not big on it. I would like to have guys to have opportunities, but you know.
I think that's an awesome point to talk about too here. A little conjecture on this is, you know, you block guys from trying to move on. And what does that set? What kind of tone does that set in your locker room? What kind of tone does that set in your coach's room? A bad one. You know, these guys are going to resent you. And if they resent you, they're not going to be good coaches for your football team. I think it's that simple. So I think it's the right move to let guys move on. If they have an opportunity to move on, you let them go. You know, wish them the best of luck.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's got a good eye for what he's looking for, and guys that he thinks can play a certain role for us. I think he and I saw things very much alike, so that helps. But yeah, he's got a good eye for those things. I mean, he's certainly he didn't lack input on players that he liked or what he saw or what he thought they could do. I mean, he was just like anybody else on our staff, man. If they've got a vision for a guy and they believe in it, then, you know, speak up. And he was one of those guys that did.
Coach, last two questions. Coach, what do you think it is about took your choice whenever you think about choice? Was a guy you said was one of the more coveted running back coaches? What are you guys getting at? Did it feel good stealing from him?
Yeah, look, I just think that stealing, that's a strong word. I think that, you know, he's somebody that has done a really good job developing backs wherever he's been. You know, and there's a number of things that come up when you start talking about these backs, this style, this, and his name starts coming up. And 2 years ago, I know that he was somebody that was on my radar, and it didn't work out. It was all good. But there again, this is kind of everything comes back around, and it just felt like this was right. So I think he's really good at what he does. He's gifted. He's played the position. He's coached it in college. So he understands our level of it. There again, he understands Gibbs. He's coached him, so that helps. I think he's going to be great for David Montgomery as well. That's big. I just think he's going to bring a lot to us.
And as a competitor, and John, as a competitor, kind of happy with this?
No, I don't. I'm not getting in all that. You know, I mean, look, it's no different than anything else. We line up and we play to win, no matter who's over there. I mean, and so, you know, listen, he's still my friend, and I love him dearly. But you know, we're gonna have to play him twice a year.
Shots fired. Playing him twice a year. You're going down, Ben.
Yeah, look, Casey. When I was a player in Dallas, he was our assistant D-line coach. So that was the first time I had met him, and you know, and then I coached with him at the Miami Dolphins. You know, so I've seen him coach. I know what he's like. I know what the D-line's like with him coaching them. And so I've always thought really highly of him. You know, I was fortunate to coach with he and Terrell. So when I knew there was a chance to get him, he was going to be available. It just made sense. I think he's going to be great for our D-line. I think Hutch and those guys are going to really really like him, gravitate to him. And man, he's one of us, you know. I mean, he's about doing it the right way, hard worker, sees the game well, understands scheme really well, and man, he knows the fundamentals and grinds on those guys.
Dan, I could ask you, a couple draft questions. What are your early thoughts on the defensive lineman in this draft class? And two, a lot of people are talking about Travis Hunter, and I think that's playing two positions. Do you think a player of his athletic prowess, or any player, can potentially play offense and defense in the NFL?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, I'm not even that far. You know, this is just the beginning of this for me, is getting these guys, talking to them in a formal. I haven't been able to grind on the tape yet to give you an opinion on that, but this is kind of the first step in all that.
He's so full of it. He's so full of it. Dan's been watching tape.
Yeah. Yep. All right, you guys have a good one.
We got a whole lot of nothing burger from Dan, because the idiots asking the questions are asking questions about anything but the Detroit Lions. Come on. Really? Anything but the Detroit Lions. My goodness. It sounded like a bunch of rookies. Sounded like a bunch of rookies in there. Bunch of college kids asking questions. Nothing against college kids, but just saying. Which camera am I on? Cameras are all messed up. Oh, let's get that turned. This big pole in the way. I'll get that fixed later. All right, big nothing burger from Dan. Look, better questions, people. Better questions, people. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So, do you guys really think that Dan has not? Do you guys really think that Dan has not been watching tape? Like, this is just him getting involved? No. He does not want to answer the questions about the guys he likes. He doesn't want to answer the questions about the guys they're thinking about. He doesn't want to open Pandora's box, right, to more questions. That's an old attorney trick, right? You ask some questions to open up the box so that they start saying stuff, and then you can cross-examine later based on those questions. Or same thing here. Once you open and you start talking, man, everyone starts thinking and asking the questions. So I will say this. I expect that Dan Campbell knows what he's doing. He's been watching tape. He's prepared. This is not the first time he's done this. He does it every year. I can guarantee, without even going and watching the tape, that Dan Campbell will tell us in years past at the combine that you know, he's got a good pulse on some things at this stage of the game. So I got a crazy email yesterday. Not saying that I'm going to do this, but someone wanted to buy the channel. Not happening. All right. So Precision got your email. Appreciate it. Look, let's start getting some mailbag going. We got a lot of work to do between now and the draft. We got combine this week. Want to get some mailbag segments going every week. I've been kind of slow on doing it, but send in mailbag questions, ideas for shows, ideas for videos, mailbag@rockdown.com. If you don't want your name used, just tell me. I won't use it. But do me another favor. When you guys are in the chats, if you want to help this channel grow, go drop us in the chats. You know, go tag us in the chats on the Detroit Lions page or wherever you're at. Just go tag the Rockdown Detroit Lions in the chat. That's the best way to spread it. You know, the more we filter the name out there, the better opportunity we have for fans to see that, oh, hey, there's another Lions content channel over there. So what did you guys think? What do we got going on for politics in here? Who said something about politics? Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I was on the fence, I guess. We try not to have politics in here. So what did you guys think of his interview? I mean, it was kind of a waste of time for him. Like, seriously. The questions were terrible. I mean, I'm glad he said some things about Terrell Williams and, you know, finally getting Terrell and then he's gone. Look, I get it. I really thought that he was going to be the next DC. Made a hell of a lot of sense. I mean, you heard it from him and Brad that, I mean, that's the guy you want as a DC. And with Shep, you know, like I said earlier, waiting in the wings, I think that was the play from day one, that they were going to make that happen. Earlier, I was saying something about, you know, the process. I honestly totally forget where I was going with all of that at this point because I waited too long. But at the end of the day, you know, when your team is starting to get built and, I know where I was going with it. When the team is getting built, I almost attribute the Lions' last 4 seasons like a new franchise team. You know, when you look at what they did in 2020 and how they kind of just stuck, you know, a pole in the ground and said, look, we're starting over. They didn't retool. They didn't just, you know, rebuild like I mean, like I said it before, they shredded the place. There was a handful of guys that came over to the new team. You know, it was Ragnow, it was Decker, it was Jalen Reeves-Maben, it was Tracy Walker. I mean, God, we had Tracy Walker on this team just a couple seasons ago. You know, it was Harris. It was, you know, it was all these other guys that were meaningless to this squad. Other than the offensive line, obviously. So we had a maybe 7, 8 guys, I think, that came over from the old team, and they started over. And I don't know of another franchise. You go tell me another newly minted franchise in the NFL that has won a Super Bowl in the first, you know, few seasons. It just doesn't happen. Just doesn't happen. So, Rick, what happened with Terrell? More money or not getting our DC position? That's the question. I doubt it was more money. I think that Sheila's open to paying whatever, whenever, as long as it makes sense. I think it was the DC position. I think it was the fact that individual or that individual position was already decided, that Calvin Shepard was next man up, and he'd have to do something extremely stupid to lose that opportunity, which obviously he didn't. Calvin's the right man for the job. And like I said, I'm going to expand a little bit more on the fact that this different perspective now that we're seeing with, you know, being as a middle linebacker. How is that going to affect the draft strategy? I think that's the big key here, is how is that going to affect the draft strategy? Dan mentioning man defense and possibly maybe not playing as much man defense. Maybe, or maybe they're going to utilize a different system of a man and a zone defense that just isn't all one or the other. Maybe it's going to be more of the hybrid, which, again, something I talk about often is putting your guys, use a 3-man front, use 4 linebackers, put 6 DBs in more often. Have a hybrid opportunity in there. Let's not just be 4-man front all the time, right? Let's be unique. There's no reason why you can't be true to your identity, play a man style of defense, and then blend in some other schematical, or some other schemes, some other fronts that you can disguise. It'll be interesting to see where it goes. This could be our best season yet. And the reason why I say that, for one, you've got 4 years of building that they've done. They've acquired an incredible team. I mean, from top to bottom, soup to nuts, they have an incredible team, incredible coaching staff, rebuilt coaching staff. But now we're coming out of the box with new ideas, right? A new offensive scheme, a new defensive scheme, still some of the same players, but not the same tendencies, not the same play callers. So now they have an opportunity, till about halfway through the season, when there's finally some tape on what the Lions are doing, we'll probably be halfway through the playbook. So when you think you have us figured out, well, they'll throw some new wrinkles in. It's going to be just like what happened in 2023 is what I'm saying. Is like you're going to have all these new toys and it's all going to come to life again because you've got a new opportunity to prove the world again. So anyway, probably won't be back tonight. We were supposed to do something tonight. I forget what we were supposed to do tonight, but probably won't be back tonight. I got work I got to get done. So you guys have a wonderful day. This is the last you're going to see of these guys for a little bit, at least from now till draft time. So it's time to dig into some tape. We'll do another members only tape review. You guys let me know who you want it to be. We did some defensive line. We can do defensive line some more. I'm going to stay away from offense for right now. I'll probably do them absolutely last. I think linebackers is probably the next most logical spot to spend some time. So we'll do a members only. If I do it tonight, great. Otherwise, I'm planning on probably doing it tomorrow. So long day on Thursday. Won't be a whole lot going on I won't be on at all. No morning show. And we'll get it in. So, all right, you guys have a good day. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.